Welcome to the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Karen Bashford. This podcast is for every woman who has ever felt limited by her past, silenced by trauma, or held back by society's expectations. Each week, we will share powerful stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you become the leader of your own life. Today, I want to talk about something that has been part of my life. Most of you know that I've been traumatized and abused, but this came about due to the fact that I won an award for a coach of trauma and abuse. Now, that award is something that I achieved thanks to the clients I've worked with, and they are women just like me, who have a business or who've had relationships that have left them traumatized, left them feeling that they're not worthy or undeserving or not good enough. And it's amazing how powerful it is when they start discovering their voices and are able to express what's important to them. And for me, the receiving of the award is a recognition of those women that have worked with me and achieved amazing results for themselves. Now, the way I work is I help you find the lessons you need to know and learn within your experiences, because we learn something from every experience we have. And yes, you might think, well, that's not very pleasant to actually learn from the trauma you've experienced or the abuse you've suffered, but it teaches you so much about yourself that it is a blessing in some ways. I certainly wouldn't be the person that I am now had it not been for my life experiences. And they were scary. They were life-threatening. I can assure you, I have run down a street being chased by my boyfriend who had a kitchen carving knife in his hand. That's scary. Or who cornered me in the bathroom and proceeded to hit me continually to the point where I collapsed in the bath because there was nowhere to go, in the hope that because he had to bend over the bath to get at me, he might actually decide to stop because he'd been drinking and taking drugs. And at some point, something would have kicked in and said, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. My head isn't in a very fit state. And it did, actually. It protected me. That bath protected me. So I do know what it's like. And I do appreciate that receiving the award is an acknowledgement of every woman who's ever been through any kind of abuse or trauma. So what is trauma? We all know what abuse is. We know it can be physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. We know what that is. We understand what abuse is. But what really is trauma? Trauma is an emotional, psychological, or physical response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms you. It literally will put you into a state of fear for your life sometimes, but generally fear for your safety. And we all need to feel safe, even if we've been brought up to the point where we've never really felt safe in the environment we're in with the people we're with. That does not matter. We know at some point we need to be safe. And unless you have that safety within you, it doesn't matter what you face, your body is going to respond. So is your mind to fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of what could happen, and fear for your own safety and security. Trauma leads us to being disconnected from our own emotions because it's safer not to feel. We cannot be hurt if we do not feel. Well, actually, we can be hurt, but it doesn't create the same kind of reaction if you're suppressing, if you're dampening down your emotions and how you feel. Trauma can stem from one single incident. It can be something as major as a car accident or falling over and injuring yourself, or it can be something small and simple. It can happen in the womb. It can happen at your birth. It can happen the first time you went to school. It can happen anywhere. But the thing about trauma is often we don't realize we're being traumatized. And that's the scary part. Our bodies know we're being traumatized. Our mind knows, but we're not consciously aware that we are being traumatized because there's so much going on around us that we're not conscious of the fact that our heart rate has increased or our stomach has cramped up or we're thinking, I need to get out of here, because we're focusing on the problem that we're facing. Therefore, I class trauma as like falling down an abyss. You don't know how far you're going to go. You don't even know if at some point you're going to stop or if you're going to keep free falling. And that is frightening in itself. And it was only recently that I finally realized that every time I started to change my life, I started to move up from the bottom of the abyss. And I never went back to the total bottom. Even when I had my nervous breakdown, I wasn't at the bottom. I had reached the bottom of my capabilities to cope with everything that was happening and had happened. But I wasn't at the bottom of the abyss. I had the ability to be resilient. That resilience was the ability to be able to get myself up and moving forward, despite the fact I was going through a nervous breakdown. I could have totally and absolutely stopped and did nothing at all. But I didn't. I was still able to live every day. Not brilliantly well, but I was still able to live. And every step I took on a daily basis moved me further away from the bottom of that abyss. But it was a slow, sloggy process. And I say sloggy simply because it literally felt as though I was slogging up a hill or a mountain even. Because once you start climbing, you realize quite how steep that climb is. And you can't go directly up. You have to go sideways. Sometimes you have to just rest and wait. Other times you find that you get a good foothold and you can move forward. And then you'll come to a stop again. But that's fine. You're still moving forward. During the journey of discovering that I had been in that abyss, and that I was able to start climbing out of it, I become very much self-aware of what was happening in my body, how I was reacting to things, what my thoughts were, what my beliefs were. And even my intuition kicked in far more than it had before. I began to notice that there was little tweaks that I was making to my life that weren't consciously thought about, they just came about. And that is through self-awareness and listening to your intuition, that gut feeling that you get. Awareness allowed me to look at my life, make choices that perhaps I wouldn't have made if I hadn't started to climb out of that abyss. Or I saw things in a different way that allowed me to then look at myself and think, do I really want this? Or is it time to move away from how I'm behaving or what I'm doing, or even who I'm with? And I received a comment this morning from somebody, and our conversation was about what I do and the project I'm creating. And the thing that come from that conversation was that it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. The most important aspect is to recognize that you have the strength to keep going, that you can change yourself. And in changing yourself, you can change the people around you. People respond to you differently when you're self-aware, when you're no longer allowing yourself to feel that you're out of control, when in fact you're not out of control. It's just that you're running on old programs that no longer serve you. You're always in control by allowing yourself to be as you are and who you are. But it's in making conscious choices to change who you are, or to review and reflect what you want to be from where you are, that you change things around for yourself and for others. Lessons that I learned along the way were, it hurts at times to face yourself. There's an element of, if I do this, what will happen? Will I be okay? If I say no to somebody, how are they going to react? Especially as I had a violent partner. How was he going to react? Or if I did something that was out of the norm, was it going to be okay to do so? If I complained about something to him, was I going to be safe? And it is scary facing things like that. There were times when I bit my tongue. I didn't say anything. And yet other times it was almost as if there was somebody sitting on my shoulder going, come on, you can do this. You can make this happen. And other times it was somebody sitting on the other shoulder. And I have a beautiful image of a girl with fuzzy hair, a bit like mine, with a devil sitting on her shoulder. And then on the other shoulder, there's an angel. And it was at times as if the devil was speaking to me, but the angel was also speaking to me. So I was receiving this kind of push and pull energy of pushing myself to say no. And yes, I did have to push myself to say no. But there's also the devil going, if you say no, what's going to happen? You've got to do this, but you've got to be careful. And the angel was going, you're safe to say no. It's okay. It's fine. You'll be safe. Because the devil that was part of me was also a part of me that knew that unless I confronted my fears and unless I actually started to speak up for myself and say what mattered, I was never going to confront the devil fully. It was always going to be able to stop me from doing something, despite the fact the angel was there encouraging me and saying I was safe. And interestingly enough, I listened to the devil and the angel. And even though I was very aware that I was risking a lot, I also sensed within me that I was going to be safe if I did speak up. It was a strange feeling. It was almost as if part of me was saying, well, unless you do this, you're not going to change anything. So find out. All he can do is hit you or yell at you. When I'd been hit so often, it was nothing unusual. And I'd certainly been yelled at enough times. And truthfully, I don't think at that point he would have run the risk of running down the road with a knife after me, simply because it wasn't that kind of area. And luckily, he very rarely mixed drinks and drugs by that point. It was usually the drink that did the damage. And he couldn't afford to buy the drugs. So consequently, he had to remain reasonably sober because of work. And he wasn't taking the drugs. So there wasn't a massive impact on him. Not in the same way as it was when I was physically attacked more often than not, or faced the threat of knives or punches. So yes, in changing myself and allowing myself to hear the devil and also hear the angel and sense how I actually felt about the situation. Because once you start climbing that mountain and getting out of that abyss, you start to notice you're more conscious of what you're thinking. You start to notice how your body's responding to you. And you use that knowledge and experience to know when you're safe or when you're not. And as I say, safety is paramount. As a human being, we have to feel safe. The little girl behind me was created because, to me, if that little girl isn't safe, I'm not safe. And the more I began to realize that the little girl in me was feeling safe to say what mattered and was able to express it, the stronger and more resilient I came to be, not accepting behaviours that I would have accepted, tolerated, or had no choice but to live with from previously. So that abyss is scary. It can feel that it's bottomless. But actually, you can grab hold of something on the way down so you don't go all the way. And that's the part of you, your intuition, that can tell you, hold on, it's okay. You can get out of this. And I can remember on one occasion driving along playing very loud music, naughty me, I think it was just before I started my divorce proceedings from my husband. And I was driving along playing the music, and I suddenly heard this voice in my head that said, slow down. And I'm thinking, why should I slow down? But I did. I followed those instructions. I actually took my foot off the revs and slightly braked. And I got again, slow down. Oh dear, I better follow this. Not understanding what was going on at the time, just very conscious that I was being told something that I didn't. I did recognize it. I knew it was part of me that was telling me that there was something ahead that I needed to be safe with. But also there was a part of me that said, oh, don't be stupid, you can't hear. That's not. Why is it telling me this? There's always a part of us that has to contradict. But I did slow down. I continued to brake gently. And I was so grateful I'd heard that voice and followed the guidance, even though part of me was going, what are you listening for? That was before I truly connected with my intuition, before I returned to what I was born with, that ability to connect to the psychic and to learn from that. But as I say, I was so grateful I followed that guidance, that I'd heard the voice in my head. And that's the thing about once you start climbing out the abyss, you discover things about yourself that you've always had, but hadn't necessarily listened to or heard, because your whole focus is on surviving, of removing yourself from situations that are threatening to you. But in listening to that voice that day, I saved myself from being involved in an accident. Had I been a few minutes earlier, I could have been involved in that accident. So I'm grateful to have heard that voice. And that's the thing about when we're starting to listen to ourselves, to recognize who we really are under all the trauma that we carry, that comes from people's actions and behaviors and the words we hear, whether in the womb, childhood, or as an adult. We get to follow old patterns. I created the patterns of my behavior long before I came out of the womb, because I carried them from my family through the generations. And that's the thing about trauma as well, is you constantly add to what you already have. And it's when your body mind goes, I'm not doing this anymore, that you become ill, or that you actually start to take actions to improve your life. I certainly was ill, and I knew my illness was caused by the fact I chose to ignore the warning signs my body was giving me about my relationship, about getting out of it and forcing situations where I was less connected to my husband and later my boyfriend. And that's not meaning to disconnect from my emotions. That's meaning stepping away from allowing them to dictate to me how I should be living. And it was amazing once I started to realize that my body did communicate with me and that I could listen. And in listening, I was allowing myself to connect to my intuition more, because the body is a communicator of your intuition as much as it is a communicator of what your brain wants to tell you, your mind wants to tell you. So to climb out of that abyss is a choice. Whether you've hit rock bottom or not, it does not matter. There's always a choice. So even if you slide back in a bit, you can still start climbing again. And if life isn't as you want it, you have a decision to make. Because at the end of the day, only you can make a decision. Whether it's right or wrong, it has to be your decision. So if you are feeling that life isn't how you want it, that no matter what you do, you keep sliding back into that abyss, or you don't get very far up the mountainside to come out of the abyss, it's time for you to make a decision. Whether you want to continue or whether you're ready to take action and join in with other women who have worked with me in changing their lives. I'm here to talk to explore how you can help yourself, but also how I can help you. I know that it can be done on your own, but it's long, it's challenging, and you have to be certain that you're listening to what is your intuition, and that intuition is the voice that's soft and gentle, that yells at you only when it has to because it's warning you, and that doesn't lie to you and is there to guide you, not to stop you. My final words to you are, regardless of where you are in your life, regardless of what you've been through, you are more than capable of changing your life. I know, I've done it. And it is important that you acknowledge who you are and where you're starting from. But that starting point is where you are now, not in a year's time or 2 years' time or 3 years' time. It's now. It's now that you can make a conscious decision to change how you view yourself and your life, and to climb out of that abyss, and to climb that mountain, to get to the top of it, to show the world what you're made of and what you want to achieve going forward. So I thank you for listening. I hope this has been of benefit to you, and I look forward to sharing again with you. Don't forget to subscribe or to follow. I will be interviewing more guests. I will be sharing more. And I've also got this project coming out. It's a bit a way off still, but it will be coming out, that could benefit you. And in following or subscribing, you can know more about it and how it can change your life and your families. So thank you. Take care and many blessings to you.